At certain level ranges in Flyff, some monsters' health begins to outscale the experience they reward. With more health and less experience, players often skip these masker pets altogether. Hey everyone, I'm Bluekey, and today we'll be taking a look at the scaling changes for monsters in Flyff Universe. As players progress in a game, so do the challenges they face. The damage required to defeat foes increases, and typically the rewards along with it. Sometimes rewards scale vertically, providing more experience or currency, and other times they scale horizontally, providing new avenues of strength without increasing a character's stat-based power. When evaluating the rate at which rewards should increase, designers must consider the average rate at which a player's power increases. In addition, the options for how players progress must be equally rewarding, or players will only focus on the part of the game that gives them the most rewarding experience. In Flyff PC, each new level range provides new masker pets to fend off for experience, along with new set pieces for each class to collect. Taking a look at the available options for leveling, it's observable that certain level ranges have scaling issues where some monsters are rarely if ever fought. These monsters sometimes have too much health, provide too little experience, or the other options are too lucrative to pass up. Let's take a look at what makes a quality leveling area in games like Flyff. Quality leveling areas in games provide enough enemies for players at a given level range to grind without creating steep competition among players. Enemy respawn timers should be short to replenish the field quickly enough for players to engage the game without pause. The combination of the number of enemies in an area along with how quickly they respawn determines an area's effective spawn density. Higher spawn densities mean more active players can participate, but the rewards for a leveling area must be equally balanced to drive player interest. When designing the progression of where players are intended to go next, new enemies should provide a clearly positive change in rewards at a ratio equal or less than the effort required to defeat them. For example, if players don't receive enough experience from the next area's enemies in return for the time spent fighting the enemy, they'll likely stay put in the previous area to level up. Sometimes reduced experience can be okay when an area's rewards are focused around other features where players find value, like money, rare items, or materials necessary for upgrading equipment. The Iblis dungeon in the St. Morning Desert features monsters that have a higher than normal drop rate for uncommon weapons, and the unique ability to drop powerful upgrade materials typically reserved as drops from giants, Power Dice 10 and 12. The monsters here also drop the same booty from monsters of similar levels, offering players an alternate way to complete quests while grinding items. The Iblis dungeon provides an excellent example of an area that can feel good for players to level at despite an increased challenge and lower effective leveling speed. Players can make the choice to trade leveling speed for increased items and even have unique opportunities unattainable from normal leveling areas. Scaling begins to sour, however, when alternate areas or the next logical stage of progression feels like a step backwards. Players headed to a new leveling area need to feel rewarded for taking that next step, but sometimes players are instead rewarded for taking two steps. New balancing to the rate at which masker pets gain health in Flyff Universe improves the scaling oddities found in Flyff PC. At the southern coast of St. Morning, there's a desert filled with creatures players will farm before hiking up the mountains to totemias and card puppets. The Bucro masker pets are an early example of where the experience to health ratio in Flyff Universe has been drastically improved. In Flyff Universe, Bucros have received a 50% reduction in health compared to Flyff PC. Seeing the massive health drop may come as a shock, but what makes the health change so necessary? Roaming not too far away at the end of the desert are the dumbbells. A normal dumbbell sits 4 levels above the normal Bucros, making dumbbells 2 steps away from the Bucro in terms of leveling progression. The expected leveling path in the St. Morning Desert after Bucros would be fighting the hobos, followed by the dumbbells after that. Interesting, however, dumbbells possess half the health and less attack than the Bucro, but give more experience in Flyff PC. When a player decides the best location to level, for what reason would they take on Bucros for such a minuscule reward? Perhaps if the Bucro had much better item drop rates or provided a special resource needed for the player, grinding the monster could provide value. However, the Bucro has no such traits. So, in Flyff PC, it makes sense to skip straight to dumb bulls and reap bigger rewards for far less effort. With the health value changes in Flyff Universe, the Bucro becomes more accessible as a leveling target. Players may feel their time spent collecting Buc rings for an experience quest to be more valuable, and won't feel the need to immediately skip ahead to higher level monsters. By giving more Massacre Pets value to the player base, Flyff Universe combats the scaling fatigue that forces players away from certain monsters in Flyff PC, and prevents players from gravitating towards a singular leveling area. With an elevated focus on group play and a larger expected player base than Flyff PC, spreading out where players are spending time on their grind will be a critical part of producing a quality leveling experience for players. Balancing spawns so that players fight appropriate monsters for their level formulates half the picture for creating a quality leveling area. The other half belongs to producing monster spawns that can support the player population for a given level range. Some monster spawns in Flyff PC provided good scaling for the next step up in health to experience ratio, but the spawn nodes and respawn time were too low. In the end, these spawns were not an effective next step for player progression. Flyff Universe has tackled the spawn density problem by vastly increasing the number of spawn nodes for nearly all monsters in the game. Monster areas have much better density, allowing more players to effectively spend time leveling without an oppressive amount of competition from other leveling parties. Ciliacas and Greemongs are no longer few and far between, with players nearly stumbling over one monster just to see the next. Many Massacre Pets have received the change in their stats to bring them more in line with what may be expected when players fight them for the first time. Players will notice that the health scaling curve has been flattened and made linear to provide smoothness to how monster progression feels. Extreme jumps in health will no longer be a concern. Let's examine a classic case study from Flyff PC on the challenges in health scaling. As players work their way through the monsters of Darkon 1, they complete their journey at the capstone monsters of the area, the crane machinery. After making it to level 69, players are on par with the next step up, the Ciliacas. However, Ciliacas provide only a 50% increase in experience gain in return for nearly double the health and almost a third more damage dealt. Such a massive leap in difficulty leads players to historically stay at crane machinery much longer than intended. Around the time players reach level 70, the rate at which characters gain experience slows down significantly. Because progression begins to slow and the next monsters are so unsatisfying to level up against, crane machinery ends up being the last monster many players ever fight in Flyff PC. I believe in combination between the quality increases of the leveling areas and the focus on group play in Flyff Universe, we'll finally see an experience where the average player enjoys leveling enough to continue on. Flyff Universe offers players better monster health scaling to make leveling more enjoyable. Players can expect to move on to the next leveling area and feel rewarded for taking on new challenges. Improved spawns will make supporting group play possible and bring to life locations that have been historically ignored. Thank you to everyone watching this far. I'm so excited for everyone to experience the new scaling changes in Flyff Universe. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like and subscribe so I know you're enjoying the content. Leave a comment below with other Flyff topics you want to hear about, and it might just make it to a future video. I look forward to playing with all of you soon. See you in Madrigal.